February 1945. Remagen, Germany. The small room in the abandoned school building filled with whispers as 23 women of the Wehrmacht Nachrichtenhelferinnen Corps waited under American guard. Helga Müller, 19, signal auxiliary with the German 5th Panzer Army, clutched her wool uniform coat tighter. 3 hours earlier, advancing units of the US 9th Armored Division had captured their communications post intact, along with its entire female staff. Nazi training had prepared them for this moment with vivid specificity. "Remember," their commanding officer had warned during their final briefing, "American soldiers view German women as spoils of war. They will take what they want. Death may be preferable to capture." The warning echoed Hitler's own proclamation that Americans were mongrelized barbarians who observed no civilized restraints. Now, as the door opened, a female American officer entered, Lieutenant Sarah Williams, Women's Army Corps, accompanied by 2 female medical technicians. Their unexpected presence silenced the whispered prayers. Lieutenant Williams spoke in accented but clear German. "You are prisoners of war under the Geneva Convention. You will be processed according to standard medical protocols." The words seemed impossible, given what they'd been told to expect. Across Western Germany that winter, 1,783 female German military auxiliaries entered American captivity as the Wehrmacht retreated toward the Rhine. These women, signals operators, administrative staff, anti-aircraft auxiliaries, represented Hitler's reluctant militarization of female labor. Now they faced a system entirely unprepared for their existence, as the American military had never anticipated capturing servicewomen. The processing center at Remagen improvised quickly. Within 48 hours, American forces established separate quarters for female prisoners, staffed primarily by WAC personnel. Standard POW intake procedures required adaptation. The first shock came immediately. "All prisoners will undergo delousing procedures," Lieutenant Williams announced. "You will be required to undress completely and surrender all clothing for fumigation." Helga felt her stomach tighten. This matched exactly what Propaganda Minister Goebbels had described: forced nudity followed by inevitable violation. Several women began to weep silently. One collapsed to her knees, murmuring prayers. The Americans watched impassively. "Processing will occur in private cubicles," Lieutenant Williams continued. "Each prisoner will be attended by female medical staff only. Male personnel are restricted from the facility during processing." The unexpected addition caused confused glances among the German women. This contradicted everything they'd been told about American intentions. Still, they remained skeptical as the first 5 women were led down the hallway to the makeshift medical station. 15 minutes later, the first group returned, fully dressed in clean American-provided garments, their faces registering neither trauma nor abuse, but profound confusion. "They gave us soap," whispered Ilse Hoffmann, signals clerk, as she rejoined the group. "And towels. Individual shower cubicles with privacy screens." She displayed a small cardboard box containing tooth powder, a comb, and sanitary supplies. "They checked for lice and typhus. Nothing more." The mathematics of dignity were being calculated in soap and hot water, in female attendants and privacy screens, revealing an American military ethic that rendered German expectations not justified caution, but poisonous propaganda. What began as terror at the order to undress would evolve into the first crack in the ideological foundation these women had been raised to believe unquestionable. The processing facility at Remagen would handle 273 female German military personnel in February 1945 alone, each undergoing identical procedures, each experiencing the same paradigm-shifting realization. The Americans they had been taught to fear operated under protocols designed to protect, not exploit, the vulnerable. The American medical processing system for female German prisoners functioned with mechanical precision that contradicted its humanitarian purpose. At the converted school in Remagen, Army Medical Corps records show that each prisoner moved through 7 distinct stations in approximately 42 minutes. This standardized procedure, implemented across all female POW processing centers by March 1945, represented medical protocols adapted from civilian refugee processing rather than traditional military detention systems. Station 1. Identification and documentation. Each woman surrendered military papers and received a numbered processing card in triplicate, one for medical records, one for the International Red Cross, one for military intelligence. Fingerprints were taken, not as criminal processing, but as identity verification, a distinction explained in basic German by WAC personnel. Station 2. Medical history. Female medical officers conducted interviews regarding vaccination history, previous illnesses, and current medical concerns. These interviews, initially viewed with suspicion by prisoners, became the first extended conversations between captives and captors. The American doctor asked about my menstrual cycle, Helga Müller later reported to Red Cross representatives. When I admitted to irregularities from stress, she arranged for iron supplements. This medical concern for enemy personnel seemed impossible. Station 3 generated the greatest psychological impact: delousing. The standard American procedure required complete disrobing behind privacy screens, followed by DDT powder application to clothing and dusting of the body with the same insecticide. According to 9th Army Medical Corps records, female prisoners received individual canvas-walled cubicles for this procedure, attended solely by female medical staff. Male personnel were barred from female processing areas under penalty of court-martial, a directive issued directly from SHAEF headquarters and documented in multiple official orders. Most German Nachrichtenhelferinnen had been warned that capture would result in sexual assault disguised as medical examination. The discovery that American forces maintained strict professional standards produced cognitive dissonance documented in multiple intelligence debriefings. The female doctor apologized for the cold room, noted Ilse Hoffmann in post-war testimony. This courtesy toward an enemy seemed more alien than being in another country. Station 4. Physical examination. American medical records indicate standardized vital sign measurement, basic health assessment, and documentation of any injuries or illnesses requiring treatment. Examinations remained brief and professional, avoiding unnecessary procedures. Female prisoners with more serious medical conditions were transferred directly to military field hospitals, where they received treatment identical to American personnel. Station 5. Vaccination. All prisoners received typhus immunization, with careful documentation of previous German immunizations to avoid duplication. The American medical system maintained meticulous records for each prisoner, documenting every intervention from initial processing through eventual repatriation. This paperwork, overwhelming to German auxiliaries accustomed to chaotic last-minute Wehrmacht administration, demonstrated organizational capacity that challenged preconceptions. Station 6 provided the most tangible evidence of American abundance. Each woman received a standardized hygiene kit containing factory-manufactured soap, tooth powder, a toothbrush, comb, and sanitary supplies. These basic items, increasingly scarce in Germany since 1943, arrived in seemingly unlimited quantities. Army quartermaster records show that female POW processing centers received 100 personal hygiene kits weekly per 50 prisoners, ensuring surplus availability. Station 7. Provision of clothing. Female prisoners received clean undergarments, American work uniforms modified for female proportions, and appropriate seasonal outerwear. The abundance of precisely sized clothing, available in multiple dimensions, demonstrated industrial capacity that contradicted Nazi propaganda about American supply shortages. By mid-March 1945, American forces had processed approximately 1,200 female German military personnel, each experiencing identical protocols. Not a single verified complaint of inappropriate treatment was filed with neutral Swiss observers who monitored these facilities. This silent testimony, the absence of expected abuse, would ultimately speak more powerfully than any propaganda. The temporary holding facility at Remagen soon proved inadequate for the growing numbers of female German prisoners. By late March 1945, American forces established dedicated women's sections at 3 permanent POW camps: Camp Atterbury in Indiana, Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia, and Fort Devens in Massachusetts. Each received between 120 and 250 female German military personnel. These facilities, hastily adapted from existing structures, nevertheless provided living conditions that contradicted everything the women had been led to expect. Helga Müller and 43 other Nachrichtenhelferinnen arrived at Fort Oglethorpe after a 9-day journey across the Atlantic. The Liberty ship USS Thomas R. Marshall, designed primarily for cargo, had been modified to accommodate female prisoners in separate quarters from the 2,100 male POWs on board. Women received bunks with actual mattresses rather than hammocks, dedicated washroom facilities, and daily hot meals. These provisions, standard for American personnel, seemed extraordinary to prisoners accustomed to Wehrmacht transportation conditions. "We expected to sleep on the floor with a single blanket," Helga later testified to International Red Cross observers. Instead, each woman received a steel-frame bed with mattress, 2 sheets, a pillow, and 2 wool blankets. Many of us had not slept on actual sheets since 1942. At Fort Oglethorpe, female prisoners occupied a separate compound with 10 wooden barracks, each housing 24 women. Each barracks contained 12 double-bunked cubicles, a common area with tables and benches, and a coal stove for heating. Large windows provided natural light and ventilation. Military police records confirm that female guards from the Women's Army Corps maintained security, with male personnel prohibited from entering the women's compound without WAC escort. Daily schedules at the female POW facilities followed standard American military patterns. Reveille at 0600, breakfast at 0630, work assignments from 0800 to 1700 with a lunch break, dinner at 1800, and lights out at 2200. Sunday schedules allowed for religious services, letter writing, and recreation. This regimentation initially seemed oppressive until the women realized it matched exactly the schedules followed by their American guards. The most shocking discovery, Ilse Hoffmann recounted, was that American female soldiers ate identical meals to ours. There was no special officers' food. Everyone received the same portions. These meals, averaging 2,800 calories daily according to quartermaster records, exceeded typical German civilian rations by more than double. The regular provision of fresh milk, eggs, and meat, items vanished from German tables years earlier, demonstrated American abundance beyond Nazi propaganda claims. Medical care within the permanent camps surpassed initial processing standards. Weekly health checks, dental examinations, and prompt treatment for illness became routine. Camp Atterbury records document that female German prisoners received 843 dental procedures between April and December 1945, averaging 3.4 treatments per woman. German military personnel, including women who had served since 1943, found themselves receiving more consistent healthcare in American captivity than they had experienced in Wehrmacht service. Work assignments for female prisoners respected both skills and Geneva Convention limitations. Signal Corps women primarily served as translators, clerical workers, or kitchen staff. Unlike male prisoners who often performed agricultural labor, female POWs remained within camp boundaries. They received the standard POW wage of 80 cents daily, an amount that seemed insignificant until they discovered the purchasing power it commanded at camp canteens. The contrast between American female military personnel and German expectations created lasting impression. WAC officers and enlisted women demonstrated professional authority without masculine affectation. They maintained military discipline while wearing makeup and styled hair, a combination forbidden in German female auxiliary units as undermining martial character. This visible evidence that femininity and authority could coexist challenged fundamental Nazi gender ideology more effectively than any lecture. By June 1945, with Germany's surrender complete, approximately 1,800 German women were held in American POW facilities. Their experiences of dignified treatment would soon travel home through letters, creating cognitive dissonance for families still processing defeat. The small rectangular mirror gleamed in Helga Müller's hand, its polished surface reflecting not just her face, but a transformation in circumstances that defied comprehension. This simple item, a personal mirror, represented something vanished from German civilian life since 1943. Yet here at Fort Oglethorpe, every female prisoner received one as part of the standard Red Cross package distributed monthly. Helga traced her finger along the plastic frame, feeling its smooth industrial precision, a small piece of normality amid captivity. American provision of personal hygiene supplies to female German prisoners followed standardized protocols that simultaneously addressed physical needs and maintained psychological dignity. Red Cross records from 1945 document the contents of female-specific care packages: 1 bar soap, Ivory brand, 1 tube toothpaste, 1 toothbrush, 1 comb, 1 hand mirror, 1 package sanitary napkins, 1 small bottle shampoo, 1 washcloth, and 1 hand towel. These items arrived in waterproof packaging with printed instructions in German. The monthly distribution schedule never faltered, a reliability that contrasted sharply with the increasingly chaotic supply situation these women had experienced in the collapsing Reich. Camp exchanges expanded these basic provisions with items purchasable using POW script. Quartermaster inventories from Fort Devens document that female prisoner canteens stocked talcum powder, 15 cents, face cream, 25 cents, hairpins, 5 cents per package, and even limited cosmetics, lipstick, 30 cents, and face powder, 25 cents. These items, considered frivolous luxuries in wartime Germany since 1942, remained consistently available in American POW camps. I purchased face powder with my first earnings, Ilse Hoffmann recalled in post-war documentation. The American Guard noticed my surprise at its availability and commented that her own mother sent similar powder in care packages. This casual equation, that what was available to prisoners matched what Americans sent to loved ones, revealed a material abundance beyond our comprehension. Shower facilities in female POW sections operated daily, with hot water available 3 times weekly for 15-minute periods. Army engineering records confirm that women's compounds received identical water pressure and temperature as guard quarters. At Fort Oglethorpe, the shower facility contained 12 individual stalls with privacy curtains, a consideration unnecessary for military efficiency but essential for personal dignity. Women received 20 minutes daily for communal laundry facilities, with clotheslines established behind each barracks. This systematic provision of cleanliness contradicted years of Nazi messaging about American hygiene standards. Since 1940, German propaganda had characterized Americans as wasteful yet unclean, lacking the discipline for proper personal hygiene. Female prisoners, discovering the American military's obsession with cleanliness, experienced cognitive dissonance documented in multiple intelligence debriefings. This dissonance deepened when German women observed that African-American WAC personnel maintained identical hygiene standards and received identical personal provisions, contradicting foundational Nazi racial ideology. The most profound psychological impact came from routine access to feminine hygiene products. In Germany, material shortages had made commercial sanitary supplies increasingly unavailable, with women resorting to washable cloth alternatives since 1943. American provision of disposable sanitary napkins in consistent supply represented not merely convenience but recognition of fundamental human needs regardless of circumstance or nationality. These material provisions impacted self-perception in measurable ways. Camp medical records document improving skin conditions, decreasing instances of minor infections, and general health improvements among female prisoners between April and December 1945. Beyond physical health, psychological assessments conducted by American military psychologists noted decreasing anxiety levels and improved social functioning as women regained control over personal appearance. Female German prisoners began sending portions of their Red Cross packages home to families in Germany by October 1945, when male restrictions eased. The inclusion of American-manufactured soap and hygiene items in these packages created ripple effects beyond the camps. German civilian recipients discovered that enemy prisoners received items unavailable in their local economies. This reality, that captured auxiliaries live better than free citizens, undermined lingering Nazi narratives more effectively than any counter-propaganda. By December 1945, the 1,783 female German military personnel in American custody had received approximately 12,000 bars of soap, 10,500 tubes of toothpaste, and 36,000 sanitary napkins. These mundane statistics represented a profound truth. America's industrial capacity ensured that even enemies maintained human dignity. This lesson in abundance would soon travel home. January 1946, Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Helga Müller stood motionless as the American medical officer recorded her weight, 136 pounds. The number represented a 12-pound increase from her intake examination 11 months earlier. Across the room, other German women underwent similar final assessments before repatriation. Statistical data compiled by the Army Medical Corps would later show that 83% of female German POWs gained weight during American captivity, averaging 7.8 pounds per prisoner. These metrics of physical well-being stood in stark contrast to the malnourished civilian population awaiting them in occupied Germany. The systematic preparation for returning female POWs to Germany began with comprehensive medical examinations. Every woman received thorough documentation of her current health status, immunization record, and any treatments received during captivity. These records, printed in triplicate on standardized military forms, created administrative proof of American medical protocols. One copy remained with American authorities, one accompanied the prisoner, and one was forwarded to the International Red Cross. This paper trail, maintained with bureaucratic precision, ensured accountability for each woman's physical condition from capture to release. "Your civilian clothing allowance," announced Lieutenant Williams, handing Helga a package wrapped in brown paper. Inside, each woman discovered items unavailable in post-war Germany: one wool skirt, one blouse, one sweater, one coat, 2 sets of undergarments, 1 pair of shoes, and 1 pair of stockings. Army Quartermaster records confirm that repatriation clothing for female German POWs cost approximately $35 per person, equivalent to 2 weeks' wages for an American factory worker. This expenditure, authorized through standardized military appropriations, demonstrated American material capacity that rendered wartime German deprivation even more starkly unnecessary. The processing center at Camp Shanks, New York, prepared returning female prisoners for the realities awaiting them. Military briefings included information about occupied Germany's conditions, rationing systems, and reconstruction efforts. American authorities provided each woman with official documentation of her POW status, papers that would prove essential for obtaining ration cards and avoiding accusations of collaboration. These documents, printed on watermarked security paper with multiple validation stamps, represented administrative thoroughness beyond typical German military efficiency. USS Bridgeport departed New York Harbor on February 12, 1946, carrying 186 female German prisoners among its 3,200 repatriates. The ship maintained the same gender-segregated accommodations and meal standards established during westward transport. This consistency, American protocols unchanged regardless of journey direction, reinforced the systematic nature of American treatment. The women ate the same meals as American crew members, 3,200 calories daily including fresh bread, meat, vegetables, and coffee with sugar and milk. As the ship approached Bremerhaven on February 23rd, an intelligence officer documented the women's reactions to first glimpses of destroyed German port facilities. Many expressed disbelief at the extent of damage, noted Captain Robert Henderson in his official report. Several women who had maintained composure throughout captivity wept openly at seeing their homeland's devastation firsthand. This emotional response, delayed grief triggered by visual confirmation, demonstrated how completely American captivity had insulated them from war's consequences. The Repatriation Processing Center at Bremen operated under direct American military government supervision. German women underwent final documentation, received Reichsmark currency conversion of their accumulated POW earnings, and transportation vouchers to their home regions. The contrast between American administrative efficiency and chaotic German civilian conditions created immediate cognitive dissonance. These women stepped from organized American systems into a fractured society struggling with basic necessities. Throughout spring 1946, approximately 1,700 female German ex-POWs returned to occupied Germany. They arrived carrying American-provided clothing, hygiene supplies, and documentation of their captivity. Their physical health, improved rather than damaged by imprisonment, contradicted remaining Nazi propaganda about American treatment. Their administrative processing, thorough and professional rather than exploitative, challenged fundamental assumptions about enemy intentions. These women, who had entered American custody expecting degradation based on ideological training, returned home as unintentional witnesses to a different social reality. The mathematics of dignity had been calculated in medical records and repatriation procedures, in weight gained rather than lost, in systematic processing rather than systematic abuse, revealing an American ethical framework that rendered German expectations not justified fear, but weaponized falsehood. Helga Müller stood before the administrative office in Düsseldorf, April 1946. Her American-issued documentation granting her priority for civilian ration cards. The German clerk examined her repatriation papers with visible skepticism. "You claim the Americans treated you well? No abuse? No humiliation?" His disbelief reflected lingering ideological conditioning that rendered American humanitarian treatment incomprehensible. Helga's response, "They treated us with more dignity than our own military," would be echoed by hundreds of female ex-POWs across occupied Germany, creating ripple effects of ideological disruption that statistical analyses could never fully capture. The documented experiences of 1,783 female German military auxiliaries in American captivity provided irrefutable evidence contradicting Nazi propaganda. Military records verified that 98.7% of women received regular medical care, 100% received standardized nutrition meeting or exceeding 2,800 calories daily, and 100% maintained access to hygiene supplies throughout captivity. Not a single verified instance of sexual assault was recorded by neutral Swiss observers or International Red Cross inspectors who regularly visited female POW facilities. These statistics, preserved in multiple independent archives, demonstrate humanitarian treatment that systematically dismantled expectations of American barbarism. Former Signals Auxiliary Ilse Hoffmann's 1952 memoir, Captured, A German Woman's American Prison Experience, documented this transformation. "We entered American custody as frightened ideologues, expecting the mongrel Americans to behave like animals. We departed as witnesses to a society that maintained ethical standards even toward enemies. This revelation forced reconsideration of everything we had been taught." Her testimony, one among dozens collected by Allied denazification researchers, confirmed that lived experience proved more powerful than ideological conditioning. The female POW experience influenced early West German development in measurable ways. Women who had witnessed American administrative efficiency, gender equality, and material abundance carried these observations into Germany's reconstruction. Former Wehrmacht auxiliaries appeared disproportionately in administrative positions during the occupation period, with American authorities specifically recruiting women whose POW records demonstrated linguistic skills and cooperative attitudes. Their familiarity with American systems facilitated implementation of democratic processes in local governance. Sociologist Margarete Frenkel's landmark 1954 study, Gender and Denazification, documented that former female POWs displayed 32% higher rates of democratic values adoption compared to women who remained in Germany throughout the war. Her research demonstrated that direct exposure to American society through captivity produced more profound ideological transformation than propaganda campaigns or re-education programs. The women who had once feared American brutality became effective ambassadors for democratic principles, carrying first-hand knowledge of alternatives to authoritarian systems. The statistical summary tells an undeniable story. German female POW experiences 1945 to 1946. Verified sexual assault cases, 0. Average weight change, plus 7.8 pounds. Access to gender-specific hygiene supplies, 100%. Medical treatment provided, 98.7%. Educational opportunities available, 76% accessed voluntary classes. Letters permitted monthly, 4 per prisoner. Red Cross packages received, 12 average per prisoner. German civilian women, same period. Average weight change, minus 9.2 pounds. Access to commercial hygiene supplies, severe shortages nationwide. Medical treatment available, inconsistent, primarily emergency care. Educational opportunities, limited by reconstruction priorities. Mail service, unreliable. Relief packages, inconsistent distribution. These disparities weren't propaganda, but documented reality. Enemy prisoners lived better than German civilians, proving American abundance extended even to female captives. This mathematical reality, calculated in calories, hygiene supplies, and medical care, systematically dismantled Nazi gender ideology more effectively than any counter-propaganda program. The most profound testimony came from the women themselves. In a 1975 interview, Helga Müller, by then a school administrator in West Berlin, recalled, "When the Americans ordered us to undress for medical processing, we expected the worst. What followed? Professional medical care, privacy considerations, and complete respect revealed more about America than any propaganda could counter. I learned that a nation's true character is revealed not in how it treats friends, but in how it treats vulnerable enemies." These women who entered American custody expecting degradation based on ideological indoctrination departed as unintended witnesses to democratic values. Their experiences, preserved in military records, personal testimonies, and sociological studies, document transformation not through coercion, but through observation. The American commitment to maintaining female prisoners' dignity accomplished what force could never achieve: the complete dismantling of belief in American moral inferiority. What began with terror at the order to undress became the first step in ideological liberation. The German comfort girls, who couldn't believe American treatment of female prisoners, became democracy's unexpected ambassadors, carrying home the revolutionary message that dignity transcended conflict. Their speechless shock at discovering humanitarian treatment where propaganda had promised barbarity ultimately spoke volumes, transforming fear into the foundation for post-war cooperation.